And oh, it says that we are live. Great. And I'm just going to close my screen so it doesn't start talking to me. Anyway, welcome to Authors Alcove for fantasy writers, where we dive deep into the world building, publishing, and marketing aspects of writing. I'm your host, Agnes Wolfe. Before I introduce our guest, AnnMarie Knorr Fischer, I wanted to talk a little bit about my book giveaway. Right now, we're going through the spring giveaway. You can find it over at authorsalcove.org. If you do go to our membership site at authorsalcove.com, you will find a link to it. But one of the books for our spring giveaway is A Sinister Love by Spencer Nixon. It's about a demon tasked with tempting a bookstore owner who they unexpectedly fall in love, and then which challenges the demon's nature and threatens both their worlds. You can find that on there till May 31st, when I will give away all the books that are listed for the spring giveaway. And then this summer, we're going to be giving away this book. I'll be listing it soon. I'll be interviewing Tori Guyon. I'll have to double check how to pronounce their name. But this is Angel of Water and Shadow. It's about a young woman haunted by mysterious voices, and she must embrace a hidden power to save humanity from a looming supernatural war. So that one will be posted soon, and then that will be given away over the summer. You'll have till like August to try to get that book as well. And right now, I think the average one, there's some that have like hundreds, but the average competition is about 17. So you have a really good chance of getting a book if you go on there. I did want to promote, since I'm already promoting books, my friend and co-host from the Story Savvy series, Rebecca Maeve Hartwells. She wrote A Heart Aflame. This is a romantasy. It is absolutely good. And the main character's name is Angie, which is what I go by. And it's about a girl who learns she has latent magic, who may or may not fall for her struggling haunted men, who may or may not fall for her haunted struggling mentor while they face a corrupt mystical society. So it's dystopian, it's romantasy, it is super, super good. And I have given away this book in the past, and I am considering buying yet another one, having her sign yet another one, and giving away. So if you're interested in me doing that, please put in the comments. And if I see any interest, I will buy another one, try to give this away yet again. Anyway, thank you so much for your patience, AnnMarie. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, today I'm thrilled. As I've already said, her name is AnnMarie Knorr Fischer. She's the co-author, which I'm excited to talk about that, of Arcane Assassin. You can see her book in the background. I'm actually very interested in this book. It's an epic fantasy filled with realm guardians, bugbears, soul-collecting necromancers, and one unforgettable rogue named Raven Naelo. I actually am very curious about, I wish we had more time because I want to talk about like some of the characters you have in there. I have not had a chance to read this book, but she wrote this together with her wife, Rachel, and I'm really excited to also talk about a little bit of the collaboration. So first, let's just get started just talking about the book Arcane Assassin. Can you just tell us a little bit about your main character and what makes her so compelling?
Absolutely. So, Raven, we intentionally wrote this character for Raven, knowing that people may not like her at the beginning. Like, we really wanted to show some growth in her arc throughout the series. So, when you first meet Raven, she is your typical 18-year-old that thinks she knows everything, doesn't want to listen to anything that the grown-ups are telling her she should do. And it takes a lot of heartache and tragedy to get her to realize she can't do this alone. And it's so important to be part of a team. So we went a very unique way when we started writing this book. And some people even, when we talk to people that have read our books, they're like, oh, we were just kind of surprised, about Raven. And I really didn't like her at first, but then I started liking her. And we're like, well, good, because that's how we wrote her, because we want to show by the second book and the third book, like, the amazing person she becomes. So that's kind of how we started with her. But the overall story has such a unique background. So my wife Rachel is a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan. She loves to play. She's been playing for a long time, and this was years ago. She did a campaign with her cousin Kevin, and during this campaign, she had a character that was a rogue, and he got decapitated and then resurrected because it's Dungeons and Dragons, and you can do whatever you want when you're playing role playing games. And once he got back to life, he's like, "I'm done. I'm just going to retire." So he retired, and he started this town. And the whole story behind the town is funny too. So like the town in our book is called Omelet, and it's called so. And the whole thing way that the story of of how they created the name of that was during the campaign right before he's decapitated. Him and his friend are on this quest, and they went to go find like this. I want to be really careful because I don't want anybody to know all the secrets, but like they went to go find this artifact, and once they do, um you know they come across an egg, a very large egg. We'll leave it at that. And when they decide they're hungry, they're going to rip open this egg, they're going to eat it. And then these humans find them, and they're like, "You just turned our fortune into an omelet." And they're like, they're not human. So they're like, what's an omelet? So like, it was that's kind of how they created it. But in the campaign, how it came about was the person who was being the DM, um, created the name that started with Amu something, and like nobody could remember how to pronounce it, so they just started calling it omelet. So it's just funny how stuff like that kind of just creates itself out of something as simile as like, I can't pronounce this name, so I'm giving it a nickname kind of thing. So but it's been just a great journey. So when they were done playing and stuff like that, things got packed away and stuff. And then fast forward to several years, Rachel and I were cleaning out her family home and came across character sheets. And she was telling me about the story. And I'm like, this sounds really cool. We should try to maybe write this. And she's like, all right, I'd be down for that. And then when we started more, she's like, but you know what? I really want it to be a female character. So she's decided to take, it was Igor was her character, who is Raven's father. And so she decided, I want Igor to have daughters, and I want that Raven to be the main character in the book. And the rest is history. And it's just been a wild ride, because I can tell you, like, the book that we have now is nowhere near the book that we started to write back in 2010. So it's definitely has grown over the decades now. So
It's funny because I'm working on my first book for my series, and it's funny to see how it evolves and like how my character changes and all of that. So I know you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons and my dad loved Dungeons and Dragons, and I've never gotten into it, but I have a feeling I would if I gave it a try. But you mentioned that as an one of inspiration. Are there any other movies, books, or anything that shaped your story aside from Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've always loved things like, Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. And even when our boys were younger, and also my niece and nephew were younger, they started to get into like the Percy Jackson series. So ironically, when I started reading those books with them, and I'm still to this day reading his books, and I'm like, they're just, I know there's for more elementary school, but they're so well written. You know what I mean? And I liked it. I liked how he built the characters, and I liked how with Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, how she built these characters, and Cassandra Clare with like her book. Like, for me, characters will always push a book to be favorites, because like every book you write, no matter what type of book you write, fantasy, romance, whatever, like there's your standard tropes that will always happen throughout it. But if you build characters where people want to become their friends, or you build characters that they want to fall in love with too and stuff like that, like that is what people will remember over the tropes. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's how I've always seen it. And so when Rachel and I were sitting down to do this, that was really important to me. And I said, we need to, in addition to having a wonderful story, make sure that these characters are believable, are fun, have something to do them. And then like I started this thing, it was really hard when we were writing Raven. We knew we were taking a risk making her just so much a teenager when she first starts out. But then again, as she grows, she's just going to get better and better, along with all the other characters as well. So, yeah, there's so many books and movies that we've enjoyed that have really helped.
I have to agree that the characters are so incredibly important. Like I even think about Harry Potter. When I think of Harry Potter, I rarely actually think of the actual storyline. What I think about is Hagrid, Luna
Mhm.
Lovegood, Dobby, and of course the original three, but like it's those side characters sometimes that you just really connect to and be like,
Exactly.
I love them, especially, yeah. And I try to do that in my own, and we'll see how it is received or whatnot. But one of the next things I wanted to talk about is the fact that you co-wrote it. You co-wrote it with your wife, Rachel.
Yep.
What does your writing process look like as a team? For instance, how do you divide up the writing tasks? Do you each focus on a certain characters or chapters, or
Right.
how is that so that way your shared voice is all the way through?
Right. So it starts with sitting down and outlining what your the book is going to look like, or at least try to look like. So we sit down, we do a lot of brainstorming and get that kind of map going. And then once we do that, um, Rachel's first primary job is we're co-writers, but she is the true writer in terms of she sits down and we always use the term, forgive me, vomits on a page. That's the way I was taught way back when I was taking my writing classes. Just vomit on a page and you clean it up later. So so that's what's stuck in my mind for the last couple decades. So she goes and she just gets everything out on a page, and then once she has that 2 or 3 pages done, I'll take it and then I'll go through and I'll comment and I'll try to fix some things and stuff like that. Um, and then once that first draft of that chapter is done, she has her gifts, which is she's excellent in dialogue. So I never touch dialogue because if I had to write dialogue, all my characters would say this sound the same. She has this amazing ability to truly bring off the page the person's personalities. So she does that, and she's very, very strategic. So she's good at like the battles and the action stuff. I'm the opposite side. I'm really good at taking something as simple as they're walking down a path and bringing that into more of a whole paragraph. You know what I mean? Or making sure that if we're looking at the characters, like how can you embellish more about what that character sees or feels or whatever. So that's kind of where I come in. And then once I do my changes on that, then she is the final look through and she's be like, "Oh, you wrote this, but did you forget last chapter what they did?" "Oh, that's right." So she's really, really good at making sure we're remembering what we wrote in the past, so I don't make those mistakes. I've only done that once or twice, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, but that's pretty much our process on on how we write. Now, working together, if everybody asks us, well, what's it like working together? If, how do you do it? We fight a lot. And, and that's not a bad thing. Like, we both have very strong beliefs and opinions on certain characters and certain parts of the story, but it's always in good nature. Like, we're very passionate about a thought, and so what we have found is we bring in a third party judge, which is usually one of our sons or Kevin, our cousin that she played the India, and we say, okay, we can't make a decision on which way this should go. What are your thoughts? Here's what you need to know. And it's so good to have that third party to kind of guide you. And it always turns out the way it's supposed to, because the other person starts to see and it works out really, really well. But the most important thing is when you're writing with somebody is just to lean towards their this word, their strengths. You know what I mean? We each know what we're good at, and we always respect each other. And then if we don't agree with something, we'll ask the questions. Well, why? I don't understand why it's this way, not that way. And it tends to work out. But it is a process, but a good process.
I, like it was occurring to me as you're talking about the co-writing that that would really help, it seems like, as an author, like learn to, even if you were to decide to write something just yourself in the future. Like, I feel like, it's kind of like iron sharpening iron. What's something you've learned through co-writing this book that you'd pass on to other writers, especially those writing it in a partnership?
I mean, I think again, like I said, the biggest thing is just it's okay if you're working with someone, it's okay to not always agree. Just hear each other out and just play the what if game. Like, well, what if we do it my way? How would that change it? What if we did it your way? How would that change it? And kind of see where it goes. But writing in general, it's just you have to stay out of your way. It's like I said, like write it, vomit on the page, get it out, just get it out, because you can always go back and make changes and edits and things like that. Like I said at the beginning, our first draft of this book only had, I think it was, I always forget now, but I think it was 7 or 8 characters. When it's finally written, there's 21 characters in book 1. So you just never know. And then certain people were supposed to die and then they didn't, and then others got in trouble and those didn't. And like there's just so many ripples and changes as you write. But like don't a lot of people say that they're always afraid because they don't know how to get everything out. Well, you're not going to get everything out in the first pass. You have to just keep writing and make changes. And the most important thing is have a team behind you. Like have beta readers, have people that you can talk to, whether it's peers or other authors or join groups or whatever, go to book clubs, like have a solid sounding board for your ideas.
So a lot of my audience are either self-published or they are trying to decide between the two. They're not yet published.
Right.
And so we're often very curious, like it sounds like we talked a little bit before and you had actually considered self-publishing. I'm not sure if you ever did self-publish. And then you ended up choosing traditional publishing. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about your experience and why you ended up choosing the route that you chose?
Sure. So we did start originally as self-publish. So it's a long story, so I'll try to make it short. When we decided that we wanted to write this book, I went to a friend of mine who publishes children's books to get her opinion. And when we sat down and talked to her, we are like, we only wanted to write one book. We thought it was just going to be a single book. That's it. And she's like, oh, no, no, no. You're writing a fantasy series. You have to do 3, 5, 7 books. And we're like, no 7, but thank you. So we decided, we're going to do this trilogy. So we did more research and we're like, okay, it's just easier to go about and do the self-publishing. And the positives are, everybody knows what the positives, you are in control. Like that's a positive and also a big negative because you're in charge of everything. You have to write the book. You have to, figure out who's going to edit your book. You have to pay for pagination. You have to figure out where am I going to find people to create my book covers. Like everything is on your shoulders. Also the costs for all of those things. So we self-published actually our first 2 books, and they had totally different names then. And we were, so we were in the middle, we've just written and published the 3rd book, and it was COVID. So that went out. We all know how that happened. And then I think it was in 21 or 22. I'm so lost with it. I think it was 22. We were at a book event. And we were at a book event at a table, and there was this gentleman coming by, and I just happened to see his name tag said Knorr on it, which is my surname. And I just yelled out to him because, I'm not shy. And I'm like, hey, cousin. And he's looking at me. He's like, what? And I said, well, I don't know if we really are, but, and we started talking. And then I realized that he was the owner of Sunbury Press, which is the publishing company that we are currently with. And so basically he stood at our booth and we were just like joking around and talking about our name. And then we started talking about the books because he was actually at this book event looking for new authors to join his.
Your outgoingness paid off.
Exactly. And that's why, kind of go off a side note really quick. That's what I always tell people that, like, when I talk to students and other authors and stuff like that, networking is the number one thing. Like, you have to go out to events, you have to talk to people. You just never know who you're going to run into. And this is a perfect example of that. So fast forward, he looked at our books, he looked at everything, and he really liked the storyline. And he said, okay, I'd like to assign you for this. I'm like, okay, great. And he's like, so here's a couple things you need to know. He said, we're taking your first 2 books. He says, and we're redoing them. Oh, okay. And he's like, I like the storylines are good. Everything's good. But he said, I think your story is strong enough to be an adult, high fiction, epic story versus a YA. He said, I think that if we go in and make it a little longer, I really think we could flesh out the story even more than what it is. Okay. And he said, we also have to change the name. Okay. All right. So it was
What
all
was
of
the
these.
original name?
Oh my God, I should know this. Okay. You're not going to see me reach behind off of my bookshelf and grab, because I have been working with the current book name for literally the last 4 years. And you would think that I would remember my own book title. So these are the posters. I'll show these now. I don't even know if I'm supposed to do this, but I'll do it anyway because it's fun. It was Raven Naelo and the Artifact of the Stolen Souls. Can you see that?
Okay, so that fit more of a young adult sort of
Yes,
name.
exactly.
Okay,
So
I
that
get
was
why
not
he wanted to change it because that's more like younger.
exactly. And then the second book used to be called Raven Naelo and the Fall of the Guardians.
Okay.
That's kind of hard to see. So can't believe I couldn't remember. But it's with age. This is my age. It's all right. We're gonna move on. So basically he said, we're gonna change all this. And we're like, okay, you know what? Let's go for it. So those are all the fun, wow moments, right? Being with a publisher. The downside, which isn't necessarily a downside, but you have to get used to it, is you're not the only author that they work with. So things can't move as quickly as it would when you're self-published. So when you're self-published, you push forward how fast it gets done, how much this takes, blah, 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 and it can go really fast. When you're with this publishing company, like, you're working with a whole team. So, and they're working on with other authors too. So it's a good thing because they're great at what they do, but like, you have to remember that you have to trust their process, and it is a process. So yeah, so that's kind of how, and I wouldn't even say it's a negative, it's just something that people have to remember. And the other thing is the bane of everyone's existence is marketing and getting things out. Unless you're going to go with, if you're going to be accepted into like the top 5 big publishing companies, they have marketing people, they help push, they'll get, and stuff like that. But like, when you are either self-published or a smaller to medium, some publishing company like Sunbury Press is on the medium level, like, it is still the author's responsibility to do your marketing and try to get it out there. Now they do help in some ways, and they do have some like lists and stuff like that help you kind of put you in the right direction of who to contact and stuff like that. But like, you have to remember that like, it is all on you to try to figure out. And that is every author that I've talked to, every keynote that I've gone to and spoken to, like, everybody says the same thing. We all say we can not figure out how to get in front of more people to sell our books. And that's the hardest part. I mean, either way, depending, no matter whether you're doing self-publishing or traditional, it's the same. It's the
I do.
hardest.
I have a lot more indie and a lot. Actually, I think a majority of people that I interview are hybrid, and then indie. But I do have quite a few traditional, and they all say the same thing, that you still have to do your own marketing. And some of them have hired marketing as well, but when I hear somebody being like, I'm not sure which one I want to go with, it looks like my computer's getting low on battery. I'm just gonna plug it in real quick. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're fine.
But the thing that everybody has comes back though is regardless of which route you take, you have to figure out how to market. What are some
Yep.
things that you have chosen to do to market your book?
Oh, that's such a bad question because I'm still learning. Like I'm like podcasts. When we first started, I was terrified of the thought of going on a podcast. I'm like, who wants to listen to me or and stuff like that. And they're like, no, try it. And now I really enjoy being on them. So like the hard thing for me is trying to find other connections of other podcasts to be on and stuff like that. So that's always exciting when I'm asked to be on. So again, thank you for having me on today. And so we do that, and then I do very basic on like Facebook and Instagram. We'll do posts like 3 times a week and things like that. I find that we have a much stronger following on Instagram than we are on Facebook. People have talked about TikTok. Some people do really well on TikTok. I've never tried it. It's just not something that I'm comfortable with. I don't know if it's something now that would change, but probably not. I don't know. I'm always open for new things, but I have tried it all. Like I tried hiring people, that didn't work. I've tried having an intern, that didn't work. I've tried spending tons of money on classes and of like, oh, you should learn to do it this way, or oh, you should do it that way. And they're all good options, but I really think for us, being in front of the people is what sells our book. When we're at a book event, like I can sell it in a heartbeat because you can hear the passion. And I'm hoping that that's the same way when I'm on these podcasts. Like you can hear the passion that we have towards this phenomenal story. And again, there are so many great books out there. Like the first one that you mentioned on your spring giveaway, I'm like, oh, I like that concept. I'll have to look that up. So there are wonderful authors out there, and it's hard to be one that's above the others and getting ahead. The one thing that I found though that is kind of sad in our industry, but I think it's changing, is so many authors are so standoffish and they don't want to help. They don't want to coexist and share and be like, oh, I really like that book, I'm gonna share that. And at the beginning, because that's what we were taught. Like this is what's so sad. But like we started this process in 2010, and everything we were seeing around us was the vibe of like, you worry about you, and maybe you might help 1 or 2 people that you kind of sort of know. But we're finding now, because we're becoming more friends with a lot more authors and stuff like that, like sharing sharing each other's, or like, oh, if I have a connection with something, I want to share it with April and stuff like that. So I think that we as a group, as a community, need to band together more and help each other out. And that's my wish. Like I wish there was a way to just open it up. And just because if you're self-published and somebody like us are like traditional published with the medium small, we're all in the same boat. You know what I mean? And we just need to help each other and try to get our information out is my biggest thing, I think. So
That's actually one of the reasons why I started this is, for one, I wanted to connect with other authors, and for very much the same reason as like, I know that the more you help other people, the more people are going to be more apt to be like, oh, I want to help you. And also another reason why I did this is because I knew I had a lot to learn, and how better to learn than from other people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, but further down the road. And
right.
so when I had actually had a podcast before this that was about healing, like emotional healing. And as I was being more healed, I didn't have the passion I had when I first started that. And so I was telling my husband, I really love podcasting. I really love interviewing people. And he goes, why don't you interview authors? And that's how Authors Alcove, the podcast side of things, started. And I'm like, oh. And I still like, even though I have like all these things on my table and I'm trying to decide what to get rid of, interviewing authors is one of those that I'm just not ready to give up. But I don't know if I'll ever be able to give up because I learned so much and I love the connections. And then, like you said, just helping other people out is so incredibly impactful and powerful. And that's why I am promoting my friend Rebecca's book all the time. For one, it's good. And her services, she's a development editor. That's why I teamed up with her because I was so impressed by her. She's my developmental editor. She's just like one of those brilliant minds that you're like, how does somebody have so much in their brain?
Yep.
So, as far as your book, it's a series. How many are in the series right now?
Well, we're just about working right now. We're working on book 2 with the editor. So the publishing company has that, and we're in the process of writing, editing that one. And that one's called, oh my gosh, feedback. Mortal Guardian into the Inferno.
Yeah, my volume went up too. And you like,
oh, where'd that come from?
Technology is so funny.
Yes. They're always watching. But yeah, so the second book is called Mortal Guardian into the Inferno, and that's with our publisher right now, and they're starting the edits, and we're going to be busy on that. And then Rachel and I are working on our third book, so it'll be a 3-book series.
It is a trilogy for sure.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. It's a trilogy, and then Rachel already has a bunch of ideas about, like, she already has a prequel book that she's written notes on, and she already has a post book of like different characters from this world, and she's got lots of ideas. And I'm like, okay, let's just write the series first, and then we'll think about we'll get to those books once we're done this. So
I actually, when I created it was originally a trilogy. It's now a 5-book series because I realized that certain things needed to be extended out. I have always had the prequel. I like it from day one but I knew I knew this story had to come first. But I know what happens previously because it's so important to what happens now in my series. So, do you think that you guys will continue to write together with all of them?
I think so. I think so. I'm sure that there's going to be projects that she's going to go off and do on by herself. We've already talked to like our boys. So, sidetracking a little bit, our boys actually, when they were like young, like 10 and 12, I think it was, we asked them about, hey, write us for Christmas characters that you would want to have in our book. And they came up with 2 of the characters that are like main characters in our book right now. So we thought about letting them, or seeing if they'd want to write like a short story on their character. Like, so like there might be like side projects that I may or may not be part of, but for the most of the part, yeah, for the big books, yeah. I guess I'll stick around. I guess. But yeah, so yeah, we like to do all different kinds of things. We also dabbled in, we do a comic book series. We have one book out called Synergy. It's like a superhero sci-fi book, so it's really cool too. So we dabble in all kinds of fun stuff though.
All right, so I do know I need to wrap up. So I'm going to ask the question, or at least the variation of the question that I ask everybody.
Sure.
What is something you wish you knew before beginning your writing journey that would have helped you sooner?
I think the biggest thing, other than the marketing thing, is just do it. Just don't, like, we worried so much at the beginning. Are people going to really like our story? Is this really the way we want to write it? Then writing a couple chapters and like, oh, I don't like just write it. You have to get it out of your head and on paper before you can make a decision on what's next. Is the biggest thing I tell people. So
I think that's actually one of the top things. Like if I were to list like how many people said certain things, just finish the story is probably the number one thing that I hear. So.
Yep. You don't have to be good at editing. You don't, or any of that stuff. That's why they have people that are good at that stuff to help you along. Just get the story out on paper.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and just sharing your story and Raven's story with us. I loved getting a peek into your book, and I definitely is making it on my TBR. Anyway, I also want to thank my listeners. Something before I completely wrap up. Well, actually, I want to make sure Her book is Arcane Assassin, Path of Annihilation. It is available from Sunbury Press and Hellbender Books, and of course, Amazon. I'm assuming it's on in all the other places too. And you can also find the link in our show notes. But so last year we had so much fun doing a book club. We had both the regular book club where we were doing just popular books at the moment, and then we had Meet the Author book clubs. I am currently considering I have a few people who have been interested in being co-hosts with me on this. So I am just reaching out to you guys. Please put in the comments if you guys would like us to revive that. If you'd like us to do Meet the Author, where we could possibly even do AnnMarie's here, and we could have both of them on here talking about the story. Maybe I just threw this out here. I didn't ask her. Or one of the books that I've been currently reading is The 13th Child. She is a Michigan author, which I am originally from Michigan. She actually lives very close to where I grew up. I was considering also doing this. So please, if you guys would like us to revive the book club, and if you'd even like to be a guest on it where you're talking about the books as well, let me know in the comments or shoot me an email. You can find my email at authorsalcove.com. Again, just thank you, listeners, for listening. You can join our membership site over at authorsalcove.com. We have a Facebook group, Fantasy Writers Accountability Group. And of course, we're on Patreon, the book giveaway, authorsalcove.org, throwing a lot out there. Feel free to check them out, and they're all in the show notes. So anyway, again, thank you so much, AnnMarie. And stay on. Yeah, stay on, because I did want to talk about a few things. But until next time, may your quill stay sharp, your imagination boundless, and may you never find yourself pulled into a forbidden Fey realm. Or maybe you should. So if you want to get to Arcane Assassin.